My name is Lynn. Standing here at my son's grave, months have passed since the storm that upended my life. The money from the insurance now serves as a haven for the siblings of terminally ill children, a legacy for my dear boy. But it all started with a battle against the very people who were supposed to be my family. I remember that fateful day at the Ritz-Carlton like it was yesterday. I walked into the ballroom, transformed in a tailored crimson dress, exuding an air of danger rather than the brokenness I felt inside. My sister, Ava, saw me and relaxed, thinking I'd come to pay up. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, intercepted me, whispering about family. When Ava demanded the money, I simply smiled and said, "Better. I have a toast." I took the podium, unplugged the slideshow, and played the footage. The ballroom fell silent as Ava's voice filled the room, revealing her rage, greed, and cruelty. My mother's threats followed, and then I delivered the final blow. I exposed them as broke, drowning in debt, and trying to steal a dead child's trust fund for a wedding. As I walked off the stage, the engagement crumbled behind me. The fallout was immediate. Ava's fiancé ended it, and creditors swarmed. They were cornered, and their last move was to file a lawsuit demanding support. But I was ready. I set the final trap. I told them I'd buried the money, converted it into untraceable diamonds, and placed them in my son's casket. I let them believe I was unstable. That night, they went to the grave with shovels, only to be caught by the police. Caught mid-dig, Ava screamed that the dead didn't need money, but she did. That was the truth of her. Let me rewind to the start of this nightmare. My son, Ethan, had been sick for 2 years. Despite the pain and suffering, I was by his side. But my family? They saw him as a burden. On the day of Ethan's funeral, it was pouring rain. I stood there, watching his small mahogany casket being lowered into the ground. The minister asked if we should wait for my family, but I knew they weren't coming. As the first shovel of earth hit the casket, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother, telling me to stop being dramatic and bring the insurance papers to Ava's engagement party. I drove to the Grand Oak Country Club, still covered in cemetery mud. When I entered, the air was filled with the smell of expensive perfume and roasted garlic. Laughter drifted from the ballroom, a stark contrast to my grief. My mother intercepted me, calling me a disaster and pulling me towards a private bridal suite. Inside, Ava was touching up her lipstick. She asked if I'd brought the check for the venue expansion deposit. I told her I'd just buried my son, and she wanted his insurance money for a party. She then pulled out an invoice, charging me for emotional distress, cancellation fees, and loss of social standing because of Ethan's illness. It was then that my grief turned into cold, absolute rage. I refused to give them a dime. My father blocked my exit, threatening me with filial responsibility laws. He said they'd sue me if I didn't transfer the funds within 24 hours. They saw me as a piggy bank, not a grieving mother. I knew I had to fight back. I called my lawyer, Mr. Harris. He was a shark in a 3-piece suit, the kind you hire when you're ready for war. I told him about the threats and the invoice. He said it was a real threat, but we could end them if we destroyed their credibility. I showed him the trail cameras I'd installed at the cemetery. 2 days before Ethan died, Ava had made a joke about the expensive cemetery plots. So, the day before the funeral, I went early and set up the cameras. Mr. Harris was excited. He said if I had what he thought I had, we could end them. We planned to use their vanity against them. I was to bring the camera to the big engagement party and expose them. And that's how I ended up at the Ritz-Carlton, delivering the final blow to my so-called family. In the end, their conviction ended everything. I lost the family I was born into, but I saved myself. Blood may make you related, but loyalty makes you family.